Welcome back to Sweat Capital. Today, we're very lucky to be joined by Anthony Brown, CEO of NobleOak. Thanks for joining us, Anthony.
Great to be here, Charlie.
Thanks, Anthony. So our first question for you, and a question we'd like to ask all our guests is, what was your first ever job? As we find there's often a good story behind it or something you might have learnt. So we'll start there.
Yeah, I mean, I had all the normal jobs like paper boy and, working in shops and all that when I was really young. But the first memorable one where I was paid a salary was a mate of mine at school got me to work for his dad in a wool storage centre in Fairfield. So we'd have to get up at like 3 a.m. and get a train to Fairfield. And our job was to find lost bales of wool. And they weighed literally a ton. And we'd have to climb over wool bales and try and find lost numbers and write them onto a pad.
Workplace health and safety.
But they didn't worry too much. And it was actually really physical work, but we both really loved it. And after about 5 days of it, it was good pay as well for us. I was exhausted, and I found the spot between these couple of bales of wool, and I just lay down, had a little bit of a rest. And then my mate, Scott, came over and said, "You bastard, what are you doing? This is my dad's business." And I was I'm so sorry. I was just so exhausted. Anyway, the next day I was walking around and he was asleep in the same spot.
Did you give it to him?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I gave it back to him. But look, it was a really good, hard job. But, for us, it was great pay. And a lesson was, the hard work does pay off. Like, we did well out of it. But interestingly, even in that role, there was a guy who always started earlier than everyone else. He worked really hard. He was a lovely guy, and he was there later, and he was getting double pay because he did the later shifts and everything. And you could just tell he was going to be running that place, in a few years. And I suppose it made me realise it doesn't matter what your job is. If you do work hard and you're dedicated and you're a good guy, you can actually do really well, irrespective of what the industry is and what the actual role is.
That's really interesting because Will and I, like our first ever foray into the workforce was, I did a bit of umpiring, but my first ever employed role was unloading shipping containers with Will. And so
out of these real suburban suburbs in Brisbane, on the outskirts.
One of them was actually not an industrial area not too far from Fairfield as well.
Okay.
So we can very much relate to that.
Yeah.
And there was a mix of people we were working with. Two boys from grammar were we did stick out like, sore thumbs to an extent.
Two skinny blokes as well.
But what it taught us was like a few of these guys who, some had clearly had rough trots at life, but if you weren't working hard, they would call you out on it.
Yeah.
And it taught us one thing. A, we really want to go to uni and make sure that we're not having to do this the rest of our life. And then B, that the hard work matters a lot to people. And so it really resonates what you've said there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I think you also realise how important a bit of grit is. And even now in today's sort of environment, there's a lot of stress and people, if they get things 100% right, they want to work from home and so on. And I always think back to these days where you got these guys working so incredibly hard and they have to turn up every day and they're not complaining.
Yeah.
And they're earning a fraction of the salary.
Yeah.
That's where you get some real grit.
Absolutely. No,
definitely.
Great experience.
And I guess we're keen to sort of unpack what university Anthony Brown was like. So you were studying a Bachelor of Economics at USyd.
Yeah.
Were you sort of interested in at that time, and sort of we're always interested in how people sort of approach the start of their career and sort of what they look to do, like sort of straight out of uni as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know what I wanted to do, like most people at that age. And I sort of fell into economics and accounting because that's kind of what you did. And, I was more mathematical than English, so it sort of made sense to do that. So there wasn't a lot of thought into it. I just got in. I wasn't a fantastic studier. And then when I was at uni, my passions were really music and rugby. Uni was really inconvenient. I just wanted to get through it, to be honest. But I loved, I loved playing rugby and meeting people doing that. I really enjoyed playing music.
What'd you play? What was your...
Well, we had a band called the Cracksteins in
nice.
Sydney Uni, and we used to write with some old schoolmates.
Oh, that's awesome fun.
Yeah, it was really good fun. We actually won the band comp, which we were really excited about. And we were going to be rock stars.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And are the Cracksteins, do they ever get back together?
Yeah, get the
Like,
band back together.
Unfortunately, no. Even with the huge demand that we get,
Oh,
no, we don't play together. But I still catch up with one of the guys and play a bit of guitar. But so it was doing things like that I really enjoyed. That you have the really good memories and it keeps you kind of motivated. And then I suppose when I finished uni and I had to get a serious job, I went into a KPMG role. It was Pete Marwick at the time.
yeah.
And the reason I really got in was mainly through rugby, because they had a rugby team and I was playing a lot of that. That helped me. The world's changed, obviously. Now.
What were you as a position?
I was a winger.
Yeah,
Yeah.
bit of toe, bit of speed. Yeah.
Well, not enough to keep going, unfortunately. But yeah, that was the idea. I don't think it was that. It was just my handling was so bad they didn't want to put me in the centres. It is much more selective now, with those roles. It was a bit more flexible, so I ended up getting a vacation role so I could work during the holidays, which was awesome at uni. And then I went into Pete Marwick after, and I really loved it. It was just a great business, good young people to mix with. I didn't love the role itself. It was in audit. It wasn't ideally what I really loved doing, but it was just awesome learning, going around to different companies, having to deal with clients, having great colleagues and having to deal with managers. It was just great learning.
Yeah, and as boring as the work, like from some people, we've got a few mates who work in audit, and they say it is somewhat dry at times. There's not many roles where you get put in front of clients as a junior as quickly as you do in audit, and it's a really good point that you made there, and seeing lots of different businesses. Was it daunting as a young person initially, that sort of experience?
It was really daunting, especially when I was at uni, because I guess I was 19 or so, and then going out to clients and even guys, in their late 20s and 30s were really old and experienced for me.
Yeah.
And then you're dealing with clients, sometimes the CFOs, and I really knew virtually nothing, and they knew I knew nothing. So it was daunting, but I guess, like you say, the learning was just phenomenal. And, I guess a key thing is looking at your career as a portfolio of experiences, and not each experience you're going to love, but it rounds a skill set out. So I knew I wasn't going to be in audit in the long term, but I was still really enjoying it because of the atmosphere I was in. And it was, like you say, the skill set was just amazing.
Yeah.
Not only was I learning how to deal with clients, but even the financial statements, which I didn't find interesting at the time, it did teach me a lot. And that's helped me in the CEO role. I understand all the numbers really well. I can communicate them reasonably well. Yeah. And a lot of that is the background from KPMG, not so much the study, I did at uni.
Yeah, no, fantastic.
That's fascinating. And then I guess, how'd you sort of map your way to your next role out of audit at Pete Marwick? Because
financial markets.
Yeah, what were you sort of looking for after that?
Because a lot of people try to make that leap. It's
Well, it is a hard leap because you're either going sideways or backwards. Yeah. And again, I think early on in my career, I did get some really good guidance because I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I was at KPMG, and I knew that wasn't a long-term thing. So I did catch up with sort of a bit of a mentor at the time, and he was sort of saying to me, make sure in the long run you're doing what you really enjoy and what you can contribute to, and think about what motivates you as a person, and make sure you're targeting that irrespective of what the role actually is. It's sort of almost role agnostic. And to get there, don't worry about going sideways and sometimes backwards, because the short-term step, it's just got to get you to the long term. Doesn't always have to be a step upwards. Often steps you perceive as upwards aren't taking to the destination you want to get to. So you see people chasing salary increases at other firms, but that's not right for their career. Flexi work in a different firm, and that's not heading them where they need to go. So I found that really useful. So what I learned early on was, for me, I was more of a businessy sort of person. I wanted to start and build something, and I liked the mathematical side and understanding the numbers. But what drove me was contributing and building. That's just what I loved doing. I got it through music. I was sort of writing and doing stuff there. I loved the teamwork of rugby and so on. So I decided to move into a marketing role at KPMG, which was really different. And actually,
Audit to marketing.
Yeah, marketing. Yeah. It's probably pops into the spectrum.
yeah,
Portfolio experiences, hey?
yeah, it's complete opposite. And it was actually not a popular thing because I'd just become chartered accountant and become a manager in audit. So for them, it was sort of, well, this is really weird. You know, you've got this path and you're just going backwards into this. But I just knew that if I wanted a more rounded business career, I needed a marketing and business development side. And that's what was really lacking in audit. So that's why I did it. And I actually really enjoyed it. I was there for a couple of years. And then building on that rounding, the next role, I thought, well, is there something else that will further round it? And that ended up being another role that wasn't a long-term thing, but a great step for me. And that was in a publisher called CCH. And it was more of a business unit manager. And the only reason I could land that, because I didn't have business unit management experience, is because I was from a technical background and it's a technical publisher. So it was a bit of a stretch for them, a bit of a stretch for me, but it was sort of the first time I was kind of running a profit and loss, and a business. And that was a really big step for me. Culturally, it was much harder. It was really different to KPMG. It wasn't as professional. You're dealing with really different types of people, but that was a good learning as well. And it helped me round that sort of skill set. Yeah.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And like, I think it's interesting that, you can end up working at organizations like, AMP Capital, for example. You spend a fair bit of time there. And a lot of people would think to get to work at AMP Capital, you have to do finance at university. You had to start as an analyst in the finance team doing blah, blah, blah. Whereas your pathway, audit, marketing, and then sort of through to, a firm operating in an industry that, when you started out, certainly wasn't where you were heading. It's interesting. And so how did you find your time at like a large institution like AMP in, what was, a seriously significant market?
Yeah, I mean, again, it was rounding off of a skill set. I really enjoyed AMP. So for 2 years, I was in the financial advice side, AMP Financial Services, it was called at the time. And that was more in a strategy role. And the reason was, one is it further rounded my skills, but also I had a personal interest in sort of direct wealth. I mean, myself, I had a young family and I was interested in how I sort of build wealth in the long term for myself. And I was sort of always interested in investing and that sort of stuff. So there was personal interest that drove me there. That was more of a strategy role. And as I was there for a couple of years and building some relationships, they then allowed me to move on to the capital side, which was the other half of the business. That was a really good opportunity. And it was more in an operations role, which is not my natural skill set. But again, that was the gap for me. If I wanted to run a business, I hadn't really run an ops area. I'd run a small business unit. I had marketing experience, finance experience, strategy experience. I didn't really have ops. So it was a sideways step, but a good step. Wasn't my natural skill set, so I found it a hard role for me. Getting into the detail, and it wasn't as strategic as what I sort of prefer. But great team of people, really smart guys. Loved the people there. Learned a hell of a lot. Definitely outside my skill set. So 2 years, it was really, really good. And then I was positioning myself for the role that really I thought I needed. And by the time I was sort of 40, I wanted to be in the role that I was prepared for. That was kind of what I was going for. It was only a loose plan. It was 45 or whatever, it wouldn't matter. But there was this sort of loose plan that I was going to learn and not necessarily maximize my capacity until I was sort of around that sort of age. So I didn't want to stress myself. So I was getting to that age then. And then when I was at Capital, I was trying to create a role for myself, which was basically a business unit that I would manage, and I was taking their amazing asset management skills directly to the market. So it was a sort of a business unit. And it would be a separate brand and everything. It was a really exciting proposition. I was working with some amazing guys there to develop it. And the same time that was happening, a mate that I had done my MBA with rang me up about NobleOak. And his business had just invested in it. So I didn't know anything about life insurance. So all I knew was...
Seems to be a common thread here.
Some more needed more skill sets.
You're going, portfolio, not diverse.
What do I know about? Let's go do that again.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think for me, I really believed in the product. So it's not a sexy product, as you know, but
Yeah, give us the pitch. What is the NobleOak product? What's the line?
Well, at that time, it was a life insurer, but it didn't have an active product. There was only 6 people in it. It was a shell of a company. It had a license, but that's about it. And it was a friendly society. It had these great products many years ago, but they'd become obsolete. So there was an opportunity to take a new business, start it almost from scratch with a life license, and create a whole new proposition where you take a really good quality life insurance cover for young people, and you cut all the commission out that's currently going through advisors. So at that time, the key channel to buy life insurance was to go through a financial advisor,
Yeah.
and they would charge 110% commission of your first year premium. That's how the model works.
Get me involved in that.
Get me involved in that fraud. Yeah.
Let me add that to my portfolio of skill sets.
Yeah, that's right.
10%
That's right.
ish.
So that was a learning from me. I had no idea until I got to AMP about that. And so I found it actually really indecent. And I found that whole model seriously broken, and I just felt it needed disruption.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I didn't necessarily see myself as a disruptor, but I thought I want to do something that I believe in, that I'm interested in, that I get fulfillment. I don't want to work for some company where I don't even believe what they're doing is the right thing. I want to be able to sleep straight at night, and that was just personally important to me. That's why the AMP Capital thing, I thought if I could develop something that you sell directly and it doesn't have commissions and stuff, that would be really great for the customer. But the NobleOak thing was a whole new thing for me. So that's a real opportunity. I could create something that have no link with advisors. We could sell it directly. So you'd have a great quality life insurance product. So you knew what you covered for. If something happened, you just got paid. It would be a lower premium because there's no commission.
Yeah.
And the service would be amazing because it's just all Australian based guys. So you ring up and we answer the phone immediately, which is again what the insurers were not doing. They weren't servicing. It was all going through advisors. It was costly. So that was the model. Strong belief behind the model. We pulled people in over the years that believed in the model. It's a culturally led business, and that's been a big driver for the success. It's that belief, and when really hard stuff happens, which it inevitably does when you're starting a new business, and there's a lot of I went in with a lot of naivety thinking I'm going to grow this thing in 5 seconds, but it was really hard, but because we had a noble purpose and we're doing something really useful and people could believe in it, that really got us through tough times. Now there's about 150 of us.
Wow.
What did it start with? How many employees when you started?
There were 6 employees,
Yeah, wow.
and it had a little old book of $4 million, which was in-force premium.
Yeah.
As your ongoing premium. It had no existing product that was selling, but had an old book, and now we're about 500 million now.
Oh.
So we're more than 100 times.
Yeah.
So it's been a really exciting, interesting journey. It's been a great growth journey. There's companies that have grown faster than NobleOak, but we've been growing at 20% every year. And for life insurance, that's very, very hard. And we're the highest growth. We've won every direct life insurance award. We're the most awarded direct life insurer. We've won the CanStar Award. We developed our new product and launched it. We won the CanStar Award the next year, and we've won it every year since for 10 years. So it is a great proposition. It's simple. We've stayed very focused, but it's just been a great journey for people.
Yeah, and in terms of financing that growth to sort of 150 people now, I imagine. Well, initially it was your mate who was investing in the piece, but since then, what's that journey looked like? I think Will noted to me before, he was sort of taking me through the IPO that you guys went through, and so can you talk us through that financing journey?
Yeah, the financing journey has been extremely painful. Because when we started, we had really limited capital. And as I said, we didn't have an active product. So we didn't really have an active source of capital. So from the first year, I had to go around and try and access capital. And I was a first-time CEO, the business model that had never been tested.
Yeah.
No one had taken, that advisor product and sold it directly. And there weren't even other markets that had done a similar thing. Most of their direct products were different sorts of products. So it was really hard. So I guess just through a bit of persistence, we'd get people putting $100,000 in. I put my own money in, and then that would get us to the next 6 months, and then we'd go around and, next time we get 200,000, and, that would get us through, and then $1 million. And so literally every year for probably 9 years, I was raising money. And it was just a tough journey. And the IPO was a step, one for the existing shareholders to give them a liquidity event if they needed it, and also just to allow their investment to be more liquid. And also to provide a simpler form of capital later on. So it was a really good, successful IPO. We used Barrenjoey, who's a really well-respected broker and financial services company. This was their first IPO. Had some really great people in there.
Wow.
So that's when they first set up, went back to 2021?
2021.
NobleOak was the first IPO
Barrenjoey.
from Barrenjoey.
Yeah. We've joined a nice list of companies.
That's right.
So,
If it wasn't for us, they wouldn't exist.
they better never forget their first deal, Yeah.
Oh, well, they wouldn't. That's hilarious. So, wow. And then, I think a lot of people, very few people ever get to be a part of an IPO process in their life. And I think Will is probably somewhat fortunate in the sense that he's been through a few.
Working one of Barrenjoey's competitors.
Working in that space. And, can you talk us through sort of what that's like? You poured 9 years or whatever it was at that point in time of, sweat equity, but also, ringing up all sorts of different people trying to
raising money continuously.
Keep the thing alive. It all sort of culminates to an extent around that point because people have an option at that point to then realize some of that value. What's that anticipation like? And can you talk us through that?
It was really exciting. So obviously it was nerve-wracking and it was new and all that sort of stuff, but I guess we've been thinking about it for a while, and we're really excited to get the Barrenjoey guys who had just started, and they were, just amazing quality guys as well. So that gave us a lot of confidence.
Good luck winning NobleOak's work, Will.
And then, we had some really great advisors as well. So we were excited, we were pretty excited about it. We knew it was going to be really costly. And we had a lot of the systems and processes built because we were already an APRA-regulated life insurer. So we had the board and
reporting and stuff.
We've got an ASIC license as well. So a lot of that was done, but there was a lot of, there was still extra stuff that had to be done. So it was high pressure. We had to be hitting numbers. We had a tight timeline like all IPOs. There were costs going out the door. You'd have a group meeting with everyone involved in it, and they'd be like, you'd look around the room, you add up all the costs, and think, my God, it's the most expensive meeting I've ever had.
XYZ law firms just bought 4 staff. Two of you go away.
That's right. And it's a cost you have to bear. So it was good. And look, to be honest, I think most of the pressure was on the CFO. Scott Pearson, who's here now.
Oh wow!
He was amazing. So having an amazing CFO makes a big difference. He hadn't been through an IPO before, so he was slightly nervous as well. But because his understanding of finance and the numbers and everything was so good, and he had a calm head, he was amazing. And we had someone kind of project managing the IPO as well, who was sort of a bit independent, who was a great consultant for us. So overall, I look back as a really positive experience, and the quality of what came out was excellent as well. The prospectus was great. It was a successful listing. We got amazing shareholders that came in, better than we had imagined. We raised all the money that we imagined as well, which was great. So it was just a really good experience. Unfortunately, after that, we got caught a bit in the micro cap and small cap market
That's tough space to be in.
It has been really tough. So share price wise, unfortunately, we have been lagging where we thought we would be after a great IPO, and it was continuing after that. And then it's taking us a little while to get that back up, mainly because of liquidity. So having great institutional investors is absolutely fantastic. The negative side is we don't have the retailers
long only.
buying up shares day to day. So we had a really significant trade yesterday between two institutions.
Yeah.
But we just think in the long term that will just change over time. As the multiple of profit to market cap,
Yeah.
goes down because our profit's going up, but the market cap's remaining the same. We'd really believe that we'll hit a breaking point, and we'll just start to tip back up again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how do you think through that sort of as a team? Like ultimately that share price, that figure, that scoreboard that marks you, every minute of every day, but it's got nothing to do with the fundamentals of your business. And it's, I find that must be so challenging not to sit at the screen and watch. Like, how as the CEO do you sort of manage that?
It is hard because I'm also a shareholder, so it is hard. But I've always seen myself more as a businessy sort of person. I mean, I joined NobleOak to build a business, not necessarily to be a shareholder. And the ASX thing wasn't a huge driver.
Yeah.
So we focus. The business just focuses on running NobleOak.
Yeah.
And day to day, we rarely talk about the share price, except with the board and investors. But day to day as a business, it wouldn't be mentioned once during the day. It's all about how's our service levels, how are our sales going, how's our in-force premium, how's all our technology going. It's all very much
The
business.
things that actually drive value.
Yeah.
Things that drive value. The share price is an outcome. And, like you say, we've only got so much control over the share price. We're doing as much as we can. Where it does impact negatively, I think, is with incentives for managers.
Yeah.
So that's where the rubber does hit the road, and we have long-term incentives. And
That's
want
tied
everyone
to shareholder returns and stuff.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's tied to share. So the number of performance rights is tied to that, and then the value of them is also tied to the value. So you sort of want these guys who are putting their heart and souls in it to get a win.
Get rewarded. Yeah.
And
yeah.
so that's where I really want to see the uplift. So the guys who are putting in the hard yards, putting a lot of passion in, get the long-term benefit as well.
Yeah, no, fantastic. And presumably, like, for NobleOak, you're still you mentioned growing, historically at 20% a year. Like, that's a high growth business that's still got a fair bit of juice left in its journey. How are you guys thinking about sort of the short to medium term, and even if you want and talk long term, but that medium term horizon for NobleOak, what does that look like for you?
Well, NobleOak always started with the view of being more of a direct wealth provider, not just life insurance. So it just happened that it was an APRA regulated life insurer. So it made perfect sense to start with life insurance. And life insurance is such an important product. It's probably the core product you need, especially if you've got debt and young families and so on. But we are looking to expand that a bit into other direct wealth opportunities. So we aim to pilot a few things. We are piloting something at the moment, actually. Whether or not that makes it, we might have to pivot, but we're piloting a hybrid financial advice product at the moment called Wealth Max.
That's cool.
And it provides financial planning and support for about a quarter of the price of a fully fledged financial planner.
Yeah.
It's lower scale, lower scope, but it's very wide breadth, and it's based on a rules-based engine to come up with your first cut of advice, and then you have an advisor that actually talks you through and coaches you on that. Yeah. So it's an interesting model, going down really well. People love it. We just have to work out, can we distribute it, and eventually can we make money out of it? We think the demand is there. So that's kind of an adjacency we're looking at, and then at the same time, it's organic growth.
Yeah,
there's just still, we're only 3 to 4% off the market in its entirety. We think we could get to 10%. Yeah. So we want to just keep the organic growth operating as well.
Oh, fantastic! And I think like there's probably a large part of me that it's curious that even though you're growing and your core business is doing well, you have a space in your business for new ideas and innovation. And like, do you guys at a strategy level actively make a concerted effort to try and think of the next thing, and how does that go down into at the sort of board level? Yeah,
it's a good question. We try not to think of the next thing.
Yeah, okay.
I think our problem is we always have too many ideas that we want to do, but we have limited capital, and we have to balance short-term return and benefit, with long-term growth. So it's a constant balance.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's really important to us to have a proportion of that going into innovation because we see ourselves as a long-term growth business. Yeah, absolutely. So that's a conversation continually at the board level and at management level. But there's really strong appetite with everyone to invest really wisely in innovation. And we kind of think about those horizons, Horizon 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
We've got a Horizon 1 business that's going really well. We do want to invest bits in Horizon 3, but not bet the farm on it.
Yep.
Yeah, so we've constantly got innovation. And an example of that is literally last week we just launched a new product for Tura, and that's been in the pipeline for about 2 years. So that's a pipeline we've invested a bit of that in the last 2 years. It'll be in the next 5 years we get the benefit for that investment.
Yeah.
Is that partnership with NEOS, is it? Is that the one?
It is.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah, cool. No, interesting. And I guess zooming out on the industry as a whole, like Charlie and I are perennial readers of the AFR, and you sort of pick up things over time. And something that seems to be quite hot at the moment is like the life insurance space. You've got, I think there was a big block done in NobleOak recently, and then there's other people sniffing around the different various life insurers businesses. How do you guys think about that aspect when people might have like inbound interest in your business? They want to take a strategic stake. How do you think about that?
Yeah, look, probably similar to the share pricing. We don't think much about it. Because we're really all about growing the business.